Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aquarius for September 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video to see more about my current offerings, and also to sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my community and brings you all the perks that go along with that. So we've got a wild and woolly September. We've got Venus retrograde still for part of the time, and then the shadow, and we have Mercury going retrograde, and we have other transits going on, but the biggest things, even above the personal planets being retrograde, are the eclipses. The eclipse time of year is when we have radical, often sudden, often surprising changes in trajectory. So you're cruising along, going in a certain direction, and then bam, eclipse time comes and you're going off in this direction now. So that is what we have as the general story for September. So let's drill down a little bit and take these piece by piece. So we've got Venus still retrograde. Venus went retrograde July 25th. Its shadow period started at the end of June. It went retrograde July 25th. Now in September, September 6th, it goes direct. But if you've been paying attention to the Venus retrograde story, which is really important that you do because Venus rules love, beauty, money, aesthetics, design. All of these things are constants in our experience. And there's so many do's and don'ts for Venus retrograde. So if you haven't already listened to my Venus retrograde video, you need to do that. You totally need to do that because it's very comprehensive. Just search on my channel, Annie Botticelli, Venus retrograde, and see what are the things that are not indicated, because even though, and what are indicated, because even though Venus goes direct September 6th, you might be fooling yourself into thinking, oh, well, most of the month doesn't have Venus retrograde, so I don't really need to worry about that. But you really do need to, not really worry about it, but you need to be aware, because the shadow period afterwards lasts all the way until October 9th. So the entire month of September is still very much entrenched in Venus retrograde, and Mercury retrograde starts on September 17th officially, and its shadow period started August 29th. So the whole month we have all this cloudiness, this murky kind of going backwards, but then new things are coming in, and we're not really going to know the whole story, but we want desperately to because we feel helpless and want to cling on to something. The eclipses are going to be, bam, bringing in new things, bringing out other things. The law of the universe, where that energy that tells us energy is neither created nor destroyed, it merely changes forms, is very visible during the eclipse times, because solar eclipses bring new openings, glowing opportunities for a new path, a new chapter in certain areas of life. And then the lunar eclipse closes, brings to completion, ends a certain energy within our experience as well. So we have this big opening, and then we have this big closing, and it shows us that the energy is just getting shuffled around, and the thing that goes away is the equivalent energy to the new thing that comes in. So we'll talk more about the eclipses, but I want to talk a little bit more about Mercury retrograde. Both Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde and eclipses actually have this strong indication of not initiating new things. You want to go back over old things, and you want to respond to the information that comes in a way that leaves as much flexibility as possible. So the energy isn't going to get to really be more clear until the end of October. So as of October 24th, the Mercury retrograde shadow period has passed. So Mercury's retrograde from September 17th through October 8th, and then we have a shadow period until October 24th. So by the end of October, Venus retrograde will be completely clear. Mercury retrograde will be completely clear, and most of the big news that will come in for the eclipses has already come in. There'll be certain isolated circumstances where people will really get their big news at the end of October about the eclipse, but most people will already kind of have a sense of what's happening. So that makes that a much better time for launches, for doing new things, for making life-altering decisions, for, anything, expecting to have any clarity and really doing something as far as moving forward. You got to wait till the end of October. We've had an exceptionally long period of time where there's been personal planets being retrograde, where the indication is go backwards, go backwards, go back over things, be the earthworm, you know, go back over the soil and make it fertile for your bountiful future crops. And September is very, very still strongly in that energy. If you have not already watched my new Mercury retrograde video, this is an updated one that I just did. You definitely want to watch that one too, because there's major do's and don'ts during Mercury retrograde and some caveats. So if you're planning trips, if you're traveling, if you're making agreements, if you have to sign papers, if you have to make decisions, if you're making plans, you've got to be equipped with this information for Mercury retrograde, because Mercury retrograde happens for half of our lives pretty much. We're in some point of the shadow or retrograde Mercury period, 8 to 9 weeks, 3 to 4 times a year. So it's not good to buy new things, not good to plan new things, not good to launch new things. And I go into exceptional detail as to why not to do these things and what you should be doing. For all the things that we say not to do with certain astrological periods, there's just as huge a list of things. It's really good to do these things. And if you do those things, then you'll have more ease and grace in your life. What I think of when I think about this topic is, let's just imagine you're in school and, like, I don't know if this still goes on because I've been out of school for a long time, but you know, there's a bell that rings and that tells you your next class, you have to go to your next class. So you go and your first class is maybe math, and then the bell rings, and then your next class is maybe English or whatever, okay? So whenever you're in that class, you're doing the things that go on with that class. You've got this certain teacher that does that certain thing. You've got the certain people in your class. They have that certain vibe. You're studying that subject. And whatever it is, that's just what's going on at that time. That's what's going on at that time. And that's what astrological transits are like. There's just certain things that go on along with these certain transits. So the more that you can just get that, then educate yourself on this is just what goes on at these times, then you don't spend the whole class period in math saying, why is it math? Why are they doing math? Why is that? Asking the question, you're there because it's math and this is just what's going on right now, you know, and then you go in the next class, this is just what's going on now in this class. And is also very beautifully illustrated in one of my favorite, all-time favorite books called The Presence Process by Michael Brown. This is a 10-week journey that will completely change your life and improve it for the better and help you step into all the things that you've wanted. But in any case, this book, one of his first things that he teaches is this mantra, I am here now in this. This is critical to this process where you bring yourself back to your surroundings, what's happening at the moment. I am here now in this. Understanding that and relating it to the transits helps to bring you a better quality of experience. And that is one of my biggest goals with studying and teaching astrology, is to help you have the best quality experience possible. Certain transits come with certain things. Some of those things are not as good. Some of those things are good, but all of it is what it is going on right at that moment. And there are certain things you can do to maximize those transits. So hence the Venus retrograde video will tell you all about what to do and not do. The Mercury retrograde video will tell you all of what to do and not do so that you can have a smoother time and not be banging your head against the wall going crazy because the energy is trying to tell you to do something and you're not getting it. Okay, so now down to these eclipses. So the solar eclipse opens up the new chapter, the lunar eclipse closes down a chapter. We have several layers of things to look at when we're looking at eclipses. We look at the signs that the eclipses are happening in. We look at the houses that the eclipses are happening in. And so for everybody, the sign of the solar eclipse is opening up new energy. This is for every person of every sign because the solar eclipse is in 20 degrees of Virgo for everybody. So this new opening of something in your health, something with your diet, something in your day-to-day work schedule, a new routine, a new way of doing things, a new organizational system is being opened up by this eclipse. And lots of opportunities that can go along with workplace things or diet or yoga or meditation or health or nutrition and things like that. New health regimens, things like that. The lunar eclipse is closing out this energy in the sign of Aries, and everyone is experiencing the sign of Aries. We'll talk about the houses that these are going to be present in for Aquarius specifically, but we're going to talk about the signs first. So the lunar eclipse for everyone is closing up some level of something about yourself. Aries is the energy of me, your physical self. And when there's a lunar eclipse there, there's some aspect of yourself that's closed off, that ends. And this can be a really positive thing. So if you have an addiction, and that was part of your personality, and that ends or comes to completion, then in favor of this new health regimen, there's an example of how many people are going to experience these series of eclipses, that an old habit dies and a new habit and regimen is born. Many people are going to experience it that way, and if you know that this is happening, you can move along the path of going in that direction. Of course, events are going to happen, and they could be out of your control. Sometimes a situation like this will bring either a health crisis or a health concern that makes you do diagnostics, find out information, and then take a different course of action. So if you are in a situation where you have a health thing come up, there's a really good chance that if you use this the right way and take it as the lesson and as the wake-up call, that the rest of your life can be so much better because of this. So again, with let's see, what do I want? Do I want to go into this right now? Yeah, okay. So how we see things completely changes how we experience things. So if you frame the challenging aspects of astrology into a positive light, not ignoring the challenges, not pretending they don't exist, but framing it and seeing what's great about this, what could be great about this challenge, then it changes how you experience things. I recently watched this amazing documentary called Happy. It's called The Happy Movie, and you can find it online, and you can probably get it at some of your libraries. But The Happy Movie is this documentary where they go and interview people all over the world, and they've been doing long-term scientific research on happiness and what it is and how you get it. They have figured out from their research that 50% of how someone's happiness level, they're calling it genetic. I can see this in astrological charts, okay? So that's kind of wrapped up. They're not including astrology in there, but the planets and signs you were born under and their configuration in your chart will definitely affect how your default is as far as how you see things in life, if you're naturally optimistic, if you're naturally worrisome, etc. So we'll just group astrology in with what they're calling genetics because it is related in some way. And then 10%, they say, of people's happiness is determined by circumstance. So that was kind of surprising because you would think that people's circumstances would be a huge percentage of why they're happy or not happy. But things like their job, their workplace, their circumstances in life, 10% of that is really affects the happiness level. Then 40% of that happiness was affected by choice. It was a choice. It's a choice to see things differently, that you have, even if you have predispositions to negativity, even if you're in a crappy circumstance, you have 40% of your being just right there as just raw lead to be turned into gold, ready for alchemy, to change how you're seeing things. That's what I encourage you to do with any of these transits so if something challenging is going to come, something comes across and wow, it's like, wow, that's kind of difficult. Try to frame it in what's great about this. So with all of that being said, we have this eclipse energy, and let's talk a little bit more about specific Aquarius manifestations. So we talked about the general ones. Now specifically for Aquarius, some level of financial, either independence or a financial picture is very likely going to be closed out. Now, you very late degree Aquarius placements, remember that your chart looks a lot more like an early Pisces chart than it does an Aquarius, most of the Aquarius charts we're looking at. So if you have a late degree of Aquarius, you might consider also watching reports for Pisces and paying attention to general Pisces report, but specifically early Pisces. So you will have this lunar eclipse in your first house, which is the house of Aries. So you'll have double energy of Aries energy being eclipsed out, which is something in yourself, a habit, a tendency, a way of seeing things, a viewpoint. The rest of you are going to really strongly have something involving your finances, your self-sufficiency, something about one of your values is going to be eclipsed out. You might have a value, and sometimes, we often think of values as a positive thing, but sometimes values can be very rigid and limiting because we have this idea about how something should be, and then it flavors how we experience everything, and we're just kind of stuck in that. So some level of financial independence or self-sufficiency or something involving the tangible reality is going to be eclipsed out. And it's going to be eclipsed out in favor of either the 8th for you early and most of you middle degree Aquarius placements, or for you later degree placements, this will be in the 7th house. But either way, the 7th and 8th house are both partnership houses. So something about your individual energy is going to be eclipsed out in favor of merging deeper in relationship. So people that have strong Aquarius energy, and not all of you watching will have very strong Aquarius energy, and that might be confusing to you, and that's one of the challenges of astrology, is that if you don't know more about your chart, you could be, it could seem like there's scathing generalizations that don't apply to you. So if you have one placement in Aquarius, and let's say it's a really early or a really late degree placement, and all the rest of your planets are in different signs, you might not have a lot of traits that we would call Aquarian traits. But some of you may have a lot of other planets in Aquarius and be like really Aquarians. But in any case, something that we attribute to the energy of Aquarius, which may or may not be relevant to you personally, depending on which degree or etc., is that you're free thinkers, you're objective, you're somewhat detached, you're kind of going with the flow and in a mental space about things, and not, and very independent. So for people who are kind of used to seeing themselves that way, as like this happy-go-lucky, footloose and fancy-free type of individualist, this set of eclipses is very likely going to take some of that away in favor of you being placed in this framework of relationship, deeper relationship. Now, some of you are just going to straight up have something involving your debt or credit or, finances or money be focused on. And that's going to be how the merging deeper with an entity can come in. So maybe you have some debt and maybe you weren't paying on it, and maybe it's catching up with you. And so some aspect of money that you had free during the month is now having to go to debt repayment, something like that. That's going to be a common scenario for Aquarian placements. But that's not really a bad thing, even though it might feel like it at first, because you're going to be able to take care of that. Mercury is also going retrograde in the same space that the solar eclipse new energy is opening up. So there's this reconsideration, this redoing, this reassessing process that's occurring at the same time as these new open opportunities are coming. So what does it mean when there's all this new energy coming in, when we have all this old past energy of retrograde? Well, it often means someone or something from your past comes back, and the new opportunity comes through a link to the past. That's the best way to describe it. So if someone that you know from the past contacts you and says, hey, I'm looking to invest some money, and if you have some debt that you want to be paid off, then I'll charge you less interest than someone else, an entity might charge you, and then I make some money and it's easier for you and it's a win-win. Something like that, could happen. Of course, always be careful of agreements that you get into when things are in retrograde. It's not the best time to completely commit to something if you can help it. That will be better at the end of October, but you can certainly say yes to talking about possibilities that come in. So in general, closing up of individual energy, opening up of merging and partnership and collaboration energy is very strong for Aquarius. So I can't see what's going on in your personal chart. If you'd like to have a personal reading, you can go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video. And you can also see more about my programs. I have an Unleash Your Money Magnet webinar that I'm getting very great feedback from. People who have been diligently working with those tools in the webinar are having really great manifestations, and maybe you could be one of them. So check that out, and also check out my Shine program, which is available on a sliding scale and is intended to help you get through and clear out the limitations that are stopping you from stepping into your most brilliant expression of yourself. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. You will get a monthly write-up ahead of time for the month ahead. Besides just the horoscopes, I also do this write-up for my community that helps you have more tangibly written down to understand more of the energies. Some things I don't get to talk about in the horoscopes are in there. So I hope you have a wonderful month. Take care. Bye.